A huge protest erupted in Canada's capital city against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's COVID-19 vaccine mandate and the other health restriction that has been implemented by the Justice Trudeau's government. Thousands of protesters gathered on Parliament Hill in Ontario, calling for an end to the mandate. The truck drivers are the majority among those who were protesting. The numerous people from different parts of country are on foot to the national capital region to show their dissent against this mandate, because they are not accepting this vaccine mandate that government has recently implemented, because there are numerous kind of problems are arising due to this mandate. According to the country's normal population, the movement dubbed as Freedom Convoy, the vaccine rule actually causing this protest. But what are those vaccine rules? Because of that, the protesters are protesting against the country's decision. Not only the country's decision, the decisions taken by the parliament. The movement was sparked by a vaccine mandate for truckers crossing the US-Canada border implemented by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal government earlier this month. Upset with the new measures that would require unvaccinated Canadian truckers crossing the true nation's boundary to quarantine once they have returned home. That is why a loose coalitions of truckers and conservative groups began to organize the cross-country drive that began in Western Canada. It picked up steam and gathered support as it drove east. Many supporters already opposed to the Mr. Trudeau's and his politics. The peoples are frustrated with pandemic measures. The people of Canada see it as political overreach. These truckers are also being cheered by the people, those who gathered on the roadside and the overpasses. The people waved the Canadian flag to show the solidarity with truckers. This protest also got supported from the peoples outside the Canadian borders. The Joe Rogan, the Donald Trump Jr., the son of former President USA, supporting this protest. Also, the truckers got support from British comedian Russell Brand. Russell Brand is also supporting these protesters. So, Canadians are barely supportive of the vaccine mandate. They were broadly supporting the vaccine mandate of the Canadian government. Over 80% of the eligible population is fully vaccinated in Canada. But Mr. Trudeau make a mistake by addressing this protest and by addressing the protester as a small fringe minority that actually provoked this protest being so bigger. That is why the protest got bigger and bigger when it moves towards the east, towards the capital Ottawa. But the convoy has received some support from conservative politics who say it is becoming a symbol of the fatigue and divisions. And the Canada's 2 years into the pandemic, they failed. Whatever they failed within those 2 years of pandemic, the peoples are feeling fatigue and the divisions that the Canadian government has created through these vaccine rules and the other rules. In this time of pandemic, like many countries, the Canada is dealing with rising inflations and a supply chain which is already strained by pandemic. The country is also facing the labor shortages along with that bad weather condition deteriorating the situation further. Canada is basically depends upon the outsiders. Canada basically allow the people to go into the country and the work for them. But due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they have to stop the flight from the other nation. That is why the labor shortages has created the bigger problem for the Canadian population. The prices are on rise, including food and petrol. It's been getting harder to find some products on the grocery store shelves, and the Canada's economy is heavily dependent on the men and women who drive the vast majority of the food and goods consumed in the country across the borders. For the food, the Canadians are heavily dependent on the United States because Canada is a very cold place. Most of the places are abandoned due to the heavy heavy snowfall, and the agriculture is almost none and valid in the Canada because of the very cold weather system. So that is why they have to depend on United States of America, Mexico, and the other countries in that region. They imported their goods, but due to the COVID-19 they stopped imported. That is why their truckers have to go across the borders and have some food from those countries, from the countries USA, Mexico, and the other countries. But due to the vaccine mandate, they that actually opposing them to move freely within the country, or those who are returning from the USA. The Canadian truck audience estimates the 85% to 90% of 1,20,000 Canadian truckers who work cross border routes are vaccinated. The truck drivers are working the cross border routes had previously been exempted for the mandates, considered the essential workers, but now they have been put within the mandate by the government decisions. But this hard mandate will going to remove as many as 16,000 drivers from those routes. That is the frustrating point, that will going to remove the 16,000 workers. There are working is very much tough in any country in this kind of situations. If they will going to discard the 16,000 of populations from the work, then how they will going to survive? That is the main concern. That is why they are protesting against the Canadian government decisions. Now, due to the massive protest, the Trudeau and his family moved to an undisclosed location from Governor General's residence in the New Edinburgh neighborhood to Ottawa, to somewhere else, to somewhere within the city. According to the government officials, Mr. Trudeau is within the city, within the Ottawa. He has not left the Canadian capital, roughly 4 kilometers away from the epicenter of protest, the Mr. Trudeau's house, only 4 kilometers away from the protest site. The decision to move the Trudeau and his family follows the Rideau Hall gate crashing attack in 2020. A Canadian Armed Forces member carrying a firearm rammed his vehicle into the gates, protecting the property in an attempt to reach Trudeau. So that is why, if this kind of events happened, then the protections of the Canadian Prime Minister would be very much jeopardized. That is why he was moved hurriedly from the Prime Minister place to the other places of Ottawa. The karma sometimes arrived early and with delightful symmetry. Last winter, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was cheering the Punjab farm protest, while rich middlemen in tractors violently laid siege on Delhi, assaulting the hundreds of policemen and vandalizing the place's symbols of the national pride. These farmers were hurting the national pride, thus hurting the symbols of the national pride. They were attacking the policemen, those who were Indians too. The Trudeau was busy scoring the cheap points with his Punjab vote bank, and a large sections of which support the Khalistan separatism and the extremism. That we saw that during the farm protest in India, the Khalistani terrorists were supporting this protest by sending them the money, by sending them the logistic, by sending them every help that were required at that time. That time for the protest, this was manufactured by the Khalistani terrorist from Canada. But now he have to hide within its own country for its false policy implementations. Whatever the vaccine policy he have came up with, that is actually hurting the interest of the Canada, hurting the interest of the people of the Canada. This is called the karma. The karma never left anyone behind. If you are doing something against anyone, then that will be happened against you in any time of your life. So Indians are peaceful people. They never interfere in any other's matter, internal matter. So the parallel does not end there. The pro-Khalistani Canadian MP Singh Jimmy Dhaliwal Jagmeet Singh Jimmy Dhaliwal has been opposing the truck strike, but his brother-in-law, Jodavid Dhaliwal, has apparently donated $13,000 to the Freedom Convoy. These pro-Khalistani MPs' brother-in-law is supporting the truckers. The Khalistani MPs are not supporting the truckers, but their family peoples are supporting the truckers. This is something which is called the karma. If you are going against your origin of living, then this will going to happen. This is a very common thing. So the karma will going to hunt everyone who tried to hurt the Indian peace by using the filthy money of theirs. They tried to invade the Indian internal policy. Now they are being invaded by the others. And this is a very common rule of the world. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.